and Recreation Commission. The language of there is hereby imposed and levied a special tax of, that is 3% instead of 2%. In section 2, that says this ordinance would go into effect on January 1st, 2027. Once again, with the 3% of gross retail sales at those establishments which are identified within the ordinance. This makes it very clear that it's 3% on gross retail sales of food and drinks, whether that be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. And that, once again, this goes into effect January 1st, 2027. First payment to the city of Mount Sterling from restaurants would be on May 4th, 2027. So we always give a quarter, a collections through a quarter, and then 30 days before that has to be turned over to the city. In section 3, there's a lot of language that we've added to try to remove confusion. So I'm just going to read this. As used in this ordinance, restaurant means any permanent or mobile commercial establishment that engages in the preparation and serving of ready-to-eat foods and portions to the consumer, including but not limited to restaurants, coffee shops, cafeterias, convenience stores, gas or refueling stations, catering businesses, cocktail lounges or bars, delicatessens, diners, dining rooms, both hotel and motel, short order cafes, luncheonettes, grills, tea rooms, sandwich shops, soda fountains, roadside stands, street vendors, mobile food vendors, food trucks, or similar places in which food is prepared for the sale for consumption on the premises or elsewhere. It does not include schools, senior citizen centers, short or long-term rehab facilities, child or adult or disabled daycare facilities, churches which are only serving to members or guests, nonprofit fundraising activities, hospitals, standalone food vending machines which are not located on restaurant property, or establishments serving beverages only in single service or original containers. So I think that the language that we have captured there makes it very clear whether your establishment is considered a restaurant or not. In section 4, temporary food stands, booths, street concessions, mobile food trucks or vendors was added because that was not such a big thing back in 1990. And then we do have language that says the city council may by resolution exempt vendors at certain government sponsored events or festivals. The city of Mount Sterling has exempted the court day vendors from having to pay a restaurant tax. And we've talked about this because it's so hard for them to collect. There's so many people coming in and out trying to explain to them restaurant tax. It's easier to just waive that event. But we want to make it clear that that can be done for other festivals if needed, or that the city council has the opportunity by resolution to exempt vendors for festivals or events that we may not know about right now, but we may establish in the future. No changes to section 5 and section 6. We had just added the tax imposed herein shall be in addition to other general taxes and fees as the occupational tax or business permit license payable to the city of Mount Sterling. That's only to make it clear that if you've paid another license or fee, that doesn't exempt you from paying a restaurant tax. That was confusing to some vendors. Section 7, we've just said it's the responsibility of the taxpayer or restaurant business license holder, owner, or management team to maintain the books, records, and papers in support of all amounts reported on the quarterly return, which would be to the city. In section 8, we've just changed the amount that could be used as a fine for a violation from $100 to $500. We've not had to do that. As I've said before, our restaurants are great partners, and we've never had to go that route. But obviously, we need something in an ordinance just to be able to help if that event ever comes up, to help in that collection. Section 9, this is where we need to make sure that we accurately reflect how the money is collected, and then what happens once that money is collected, that it is turned over to the Tourism Commission. And then the Tourism Commission will have the responsibility of providing annual grants to nonprofit entities for the funding of recreational, convention, or tourist activity. And those current entities which have already been receiving a portion of that restaurant tax are automatically qualified for consideration. But that language is there so that if there's a new entity, that they would have an opportunity to apply for a portion of that restaurant tax. An entity that we've not thought about, an entity that could come up in the future, that they would have an opportunity to make their claim if they needed to for a portion of that funding. And the section 10 just reiterates the Mount Sterling City Council forbids the Tourism Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission to issue new revenue bonds or to borrow money beyond the fiscal year without the approval of the City Council. That's happened recently with the new aquatic center, the pool. So that just means that Tourism Commission or the Parks and Rec can't go borrow money without coming before this body first. The last section, and that's what I'd ask section 11, Megan to look at, is just wording of when this takes effect. I had that second option, Megan, this ordinance shall take effect after its passage and upon publication, but not before January 1st, 2027. Is that adequate for language?
I think so. I think that it's clear that it's effective, but won't be implemented until.
Normally, we say an ordinance is effective upon passage and publication, but with that wording, then the 3% would go into effect immediately. It's confusing. So we had said we wanted to make sure we're not changing rules in the middle of a calendar year or a tax year for the restaurants. That's not fair to them. So that's why that language is important. So thank you for clarifying that. So that's what we have in this ordinance, and I would open it up to questions or comments from council at this time.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Because I just probably don't understand. So on section 2, on the bottom of it and highlighted, the 3% of gross retail sales on food or drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. So we're taxing 3% on alcoholic drinks?
Drinks.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of confusion from folks that there was a lot of, through discussion, confusion about a drink. And I'm just going to use bonded bar.
Okay.
They don't serve food. So under this ordinance, they're not a restaurant. But we'll use another restaurant down the street. If you order a meal, the drink is still part of the gross. And it doesn't matter whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. A drink is a drink. So whether you buy water or whether you buy a Jack Daniels, a drink's a drink, and it gets taxed as part of the restaurant tax.
But that's
what's not being taxed is it's not an alcohol tax.
That's what I was kind of getting
at. And there was a lot of discussion on that through previous forums.
So that money doesn't have to go to like law enforcement?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's a great question. I'm glad, thank you. I see where you're going with that. No, we don't have an alcohol tax. Alcohol tax money can only be spent toward enforcement of alcohol laws. So we don't have that tax. So this is just, the drink is part of the meal.
Okay.
So that's why you're paying that.
Okay.
Or you go into a place that serves meals, but you don't get the meal, you just get the drink. You're still in a restaurant, and you're still paying a restaurant tax on that. It's the gross of that establishment. So that's why we've added a lot of this language to make it very clear, because that was confusing for some people. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it.
So, and then explain to me, because again, so in number 9, it says that the funds collected from this tax, are we talking about,
Restaurant tax.
we're talking about the restaurant tax
Yes.
there? So then it says, so the full 3% restaurant tax says it's going to, and they mark out recreation and only put tourism commission,
Yeah,
but earlier, everything was worded tourism commission and parks and rec commission.
yeah. The original commission that was established was called the Mount Sterling Montgomery County Recreation and Tourism Commission. So that commission split.
Yes.
Think about it that way. So now we just made it clear that the purpose of this ordinance is to provide funding for the cost of acquisition, construction, operation, maintenance on all facilities useful in the attraction of promotion of tourism and convention business, including the city county park system. So that wording is just splitting, because it used to be Mount Sterling Montgomery County Recreation and Tourism Commission
Yes.
when it was established. Now we're just saying the purpose of everything we're collecting is for Tourism Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission to
Yes.
finance all and run those facilities.
But we worded it like that in the second whereas in section 1, but in section 9, it just says tourism commission, so I'm just saying, is that leaving out the Parks and Recreation
Well-
Commission?
Yeah, another good question. It's currently that way now. The Tourism Commission gets all the money.
Okay,
Well, I shouldn't say get all the money. Tracy would love if it was all the money, but
I'm smiling bigger.
we turn over all funds collected to the Tourism Commission. And then the Tourism Commission in turn
okay.
is distributing that money out.
And then, where is the money coming from the annual grants to nonprofit entities?
Well,
Where is that? Where are we?
so what that's gonna be is, we have discussed in here that there's other entities that are receiving a portion of this restaurant tax. And the Tourism Commission is going to receive this funding. We need to establish either it's an annual meeting, a biannual, type meeting to let all of those entities make their case before that commission of what they feel they need. That commission's gonna get a little bit more of a oversight role, and they're gonna have more people probably reaching out to them asking for funding. Which is why we put the language in here to make sure that the entities that are already receiving funding remain in that conversation.
So do the percentages, I know there's five entities.
Parks and Rec,
Yeah.
tourism,
Airport, historical.
and the GRAC.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And the percentages are staying the same?
Well, percentages, we use percentages to explain kind of in easy terms for the public to understand what you're getting. It's more a dollar amount. So we have always said tourism was getting 30,000, arts was getting 15, historical society's getting 10, airport's getting 15, and then everything else went to Parks and Rec. So that number just happens to be 93%, right? That's just the way it worked out. So we use the percentages as a way to explain it easily, who's getting what, but it's more about the dollar amounts. Now, what will happen going forward is the Tourism Commission is gonna have to take more of a role of helping assign dollar amounts. And that will be done through a annual around the table. How are we gonna make sure everybody is taken care of? So there could be, moving forward some years,